introduction. Ladies and gentlemen, these are troubling times. What we saw last week was extraordinary. A defense secretary resigning because the government is failing to keep us safe. We have a lethal combination of three acute and serious issues. Firstly, 10 days ago, the Prime Minister issued a chilling warning based on government intelligence assessment that there could be an attack by Russia on NATO as soon as 2030. Secondly, 5 days ago, the Defence Secretary and his junior minister resigned, criticising the Prime Minister for failing to protect our national security and for not providing the funding that our military needs to keep us all safe. And thirdly, today a crisis of political leadership with Keir Starmer in office but not in power, leading a paralysed government awaiting the result of a by-election and the inevitable leadership challenge. Any one of these three issues would be cause for concern. Taken together, they are a major threat to our national security. We are facing this lethal combination of threats without a plan for our military. The Defence Investment Plan is late. Britain's military has been in limbo for 2 years. The Defence Investment Plan was promised in the autumn of last year, then it was promised in the spring, it was promised last week, it was promised this week. It's still not here. Back in April, at the London Defence Conference, I explained why Britain needed to rearm, and I said that the failure to publish this plan was a national scandal. The Conservatives have been pressing the government again and again for action, with parliamentary questions, multiple votes, letters to ministers, all led by my Shadow Defence Secretary James Cartledge and his deputy Mark Francois. This plan is supposed to be the blueprint for how the government is going to buy the equipment, weapons and munitions we need. Without it, we cannot rearm Britain. Without it, our military cannot plan effectively. Without it, we are not safe. On Wednesday, at Prime Minister's questions, I asked 6 times about the Defence Investment Plan. The Prime Minister tried to brush it off, saying everything was fine. The next day, his Defence Secretary resigned. Things are not fine. They're not fine. No British Defence Secretary has ever resigned in this way. No Defence Secretary has ever had to write a letter telling the Prime Minister that he has been unable and the Treasury has been unwilling to commit the resources that the nation needs to defend the country at this time of rising threats. No Defence Secretary has ever accused the Prime Minister of leaving Britain naked in the face of a threat of a Russian invasion of NATO territory. John Healey acted honourably. He did. He knows that an attack on any NATO country would mean a war between Russia and the West, a war that our own intelligence assessment says could come in just 4 years. Under Article 5, we would rightly be obliged to enter the conflict to defend the member state that was under attack. If Russia invades NATO, we would be at war with Russia. We have troops on the front line already, in Estonia as part of NATO's forward land forces. And yet the former Defence Secretary warned last week that Keir Starmer's plans will reduce the readiness of our forces and increase the risk to personnel on operations. This is exactly what Conservatives have been saying repeatedly for over a year. And John Healey is not the only one. The Armed Forces Minister, Al Carnes, also gave his own stark warnings. He criticised the government's Northern Ireland Legacy Bill, warning that that bill remains unfit for purpose and it risks failing the very veterans that it claims to protect. He warned that the Defence Investment Plan was both inadequately funded and not transformative enough. And yet, rather than heeding these warnings and changing course, the Prime Minister seems to be burying his head in the sand. This morning, we learned that the Prime Minister is refusing to offer any additional money to fund the Defence Investment Plan. So he is proposing to proceed with the exact funding package that half of his defence team has just resigned over. We read on Saturday that the Chancellor is so angry about the prospect of having to cut other departmental budgets to fund defence that she has refused to take part in the process of drawing up the cuts. This is pathetic. And in the middle of all this, the Energy Secretary is apparently so angered by having to make cuts that he is on resignation watch. He is refusing to meet the Prime Minister, we hear. The Cabinet is not up to the job. I have been calling for the Defence Investment Plan to be published for months, but we now know that the plan as it is currently drafted is not worth the paper it is written on. Rushing to publish it without addressing the concerns raised by John Healey and Al Khan's would be irresponsible. There are 3 tests which must be met if the plan is to protect our national security. The first test is the funding test. Our party's position is that we should get to 3% by 2030, but as a minimum, the funding must deliver the additional £28 billion over 4 years that the Chief of Defence Staff has asked for. Today, the Telegraph reports that the new Defence Secretary will only be offered the same £13.5 billion which John Healey resigned over. That leaves a gap of nearly £15 billion. The second test is the readiness test. This means the funding for the plan must not be backloaded into the next Parliament. As Al Khan's warned, the pressure of operations and imperative to speed up readiness to fight comes in the next 2 years. There is no point providing the money after an attack on NATO might have occurred. The third test is the capability test. The plan must be transformative. It must enable us to address the threats of the next war, not the last. The Defence Investment Plan should equip Britain with a more lethal and operationally effective armed forces with a mixture of traditional equipment and modern tech, such as drones and counter-drones. James Cartledge and I have toured the country, meeting the brilliant British defence companies that are providing cutting-edge technology to Ukraine. They're providing technology to Ukraine, but these same companies cannot get a contract with our own armed forces. That makes no sense. If the Prime Minister is unable to provide the leadership within his cabinet to deliver a defence investment plan that meets these 3 tests, then he should resign now and make way for a leader who can. What is the solution? It is the same solution I have put to Keir Starmer week after week since February last year, including last Wednesday. It's the solution that even Tony Blair, the authors of the government's own strategic defence review, Lord Robertson, former Chief of Defence, former Labour Defence Secretary, former NATO Secretary General, a former Chief of Defence Staff, Lord Stirrup, they're all saying the same thing. The solution is to cut the bloated welfare state to fund defence. The problem facing the government is that despite Labour's huge parliamentary majority, there is no majority in the Labour Party for serious welfare reductions. The Prime Minister failed to get even modest changes past his backbenchers, very modest changes that would have still left the benefits bill increasing. He couldn't get that past his backbenchers. So my party is going to work with any Labour leader in the national interest to cut the benefits bill to pay for defence. I have made an offer of working together repeatedly for well over a year, since February 2025, because I could see what needed to be done. Some things are too important for party politics. But if the Prime Minister won't accept my offer, I will make the same offer today to Andy Burnham. I was glad to read this weekend that Andy Burnham was thinking along the right lines. He talked about reducing welfare to pay for defence. But his idea that we can reduce the benefits bill purely by reducing the underlying long-term causes of demand is fanciful. We cannot make immediate savings on welfare by spending more money on skills or employment support. Yes, we all want to get more people off welfare and into work, but we have to bring down the benefits bill fast because Britain needs the money to pay for defence now. There is no time to waste. We know from the Welfare Secretary's text messages that the problem is not just the Labour leadership, it is Labour MPs. Pat McFadden revealed that those Labour MPs are always asking for more taxes so that they can hand out more benefits. So changing leader won't solve the problem of those backbenchers. That is why I am offering 115 Conservative votes in Parliament for welfare reforms. 116 if you count my own as well. But I make the offer of working with Labour because no other party is taking defence seriously right now. No other party. What are the Liberal Democrats doing? Their proposal is more borrowing when we are already borrowing dangerous amounts. We cannot afford more debt. We are already spending more on the interest of debt than we are spending on defence. The Liberal Democrats are not serious. Reform UK. Blame NATO for the invasion of Ukraine. They are Putin apologists who don't even have a defence spokesman. They are not serious. And the SNP want to abandon our nuclear deterrent and ban new North Sea drilling. That would leave us with less energy security. They are not serious. Only the Conservative Party is taking this seriously. We need to get to spending 3% of GDP on defence by 2030. My party has shown that we will take the difficult decisions that we need in order to get there. So we have promised to restore the two-child benefit cap in full and use that money to fund a bigger army, 6,000 more regular troops, 14,000 more reserves. That money would fund the largest uplift in British troop numbers under any Prime Minister since 1945. In contrast, on the 3rd of February this year, Reform UK promised to spend that money on reducing beer duty. We have promised to reallocate money from Ed Miliband's net zero projects to create a sovereign defence fund of up to £50 billion. We want to spend the £400 million that Keir Starmer was going to spend this year on his failed Chagos deal on Royal Navy shipbuilding. But even more tough decisions than that are going to be required. And the answer is clear to anyone who is looking seriously at this. We must cut welfare to fund our defence. We must. Lord Robertson, who authored Keir Starmer's his government's strategic defence review, said 2 months ago that we cannot defend Britain with an ever-expanding welfare budget. Even Labour know this. They know this. So my party will press ahead with preparing our plans to reform welfare and to reduce the benefits bill. Helen Whately, my shadow welfare secretary, is going to be saying more on that tomorrow. But there is no time to be lost. We cannot wait until the general election and the next Conservative government. That is why I am offering to work together now in the national interest. This is about our national security. Today's world is more dangerous and more threatening than we have known in our lifetimes. Make no mistake, authoritarian states are working day in, day out to destabilize and divide Britain and our allies. Russia's invasion of Ukraine has brought war back to Europe and left Ukraine fighting not just for her own survival, but for the principles of freedom and self-determination on which we all rely. In the Middle East, the Strait of Hormuz has been closed to international shipping for months. And while a peace agreement is of course welcome, we are faced with a United States that is playing by different rules than the ones we are used to. The first duty of government is to keep the country safe. Everything else follows from that. The best way to prevent war is to be so prepared for it that you deter your enemies from ever attacking you. Last year, Keir Starmer promised that defence would be the central organising principle of his government. As his time in office draws to a close, it is clear that it has not been. He has one last chance to be a man of his word. But if he cannot live up to this promise, the next Prime Minister must. Britain needs leadership. Britain needs seriousness. Conservatives are ready to do whatever it takes to keep our country safe in the national interest. Britain needs a government now that understands the world as it is, not as we wish it to be. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. I'm now going to questions from the media. Can we start with Carl Davies from ITV, please?
Hello, Carrie Davis.
Oh, Carrie Davis. Sorry, Carrie. Pardon me.
Do you accept that your proposed cuts to welfare will trap some low-income families and hundreds of thousands of children in poverty? Is it the Conservatives' position that it's those people who should bear the brunt?
The best way to reduce poverty is to get people into work and off benefits. That is the best way. And this is about our national security. Those people who are on welfare are not going to be secure unless we fund our defence. We should not make this argument a false one. We have to look after our country's security above all else. If we don't have that, we do not have a country. Lucy McDade from Sky News, please.
Hello, Lucy McDade from Sky News. By 2030, we are forecast to be spending over £15 billion on the triple lock. You talk about the need to cut welfare. Is your position that you won't touch the triple lock?
So, Lucy, you know very well that every single time I'm asked this question, I say that the triple lock is not where the issue is. Our welfare bill, we have a welfare plan till 2031. We do not have a defence investment plan for next year. If we get people off welfare and into work, it is a double whammy. We're not paying their benefits and they are paying more tax and helping to grow the economy. We came into 2010 with a lot of pensioner poverty. That is why the triple lock was put in place. Rather than moving money around and robbing Peter to pay Paul, what we need to do is to get people into work and start funding our defence. Catherine Foster from GB News.
Thank you, Catherine Forster, GB News. You talk about cutting welfare, but that's not going to be sufficient, is it, to pay all the money you need to get to 3% by the end of this Parliament? Where else would the money come from? And do you rule out things like, for example, the Defence Security and Resilience Bank that people like Mark Carney are talking about joining now? Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine. I don't know about the specifics of what Mark Carney has said, but we have outlined other ways that we can save, that we can find savings. The Sovereign Defence Fund is one of those examples, and we can take the money out of Ed Miliband's vanity projects on net zero and move it straight into defence. It's one of the things that could also crowdsource private sector funding. We've laid out plans for exactly how we would do that. I've also talked about the money that Keir Starmer was happy to give away on the Chagos deal. Let's not forget that Keir Starmer was prepared to pay £35 billion to give away British sovereign territory at a time when his own defence secretary was saying you're not keeping this country safe. I don't think that we should underestimate just how tough it must have been for John Healey to come out and say what he did. Those were not light comments. He is saying that Keir Starmer is not protecting us. So we have got to find the money. That is why I'm making the offer to work with them. It's not going to be easy. We know that. This should not be a left-wing or right-wing issue. This should be a cross-party issue. But the fact that Keir Starmer is so dismissive of the idea of working with anybody and is just going to keep the defence funding as low as it is, to the point where his own ministers are resigning, I think is absolutely shocking. It's shocking. Harry Farley, BBC.
Thank you, Harry Farley, BBC News. You stood on a manifesto that promised to reintroduce national service. Is that still your policy to respond to some of the threats that you've outlined? And if I may, it's about 24 hours since you published that letter offering to work with Andy Burnham. Has he responded?
Have we heard from Andy Burnham? I'm going to take that as a no. I think he's probably still reading the letter and working out what he's going to say. You talk about the last manifesto. That wasn't my manifesto. In case you haven't noticed, Harry, the Conservative Party is under new leadership. There's going to be a much better manifesto when it's time for the next election, whenever that will be. We are ready. We are focused on the core issues, how we bring down the welfare bill, how we can bring energy costs down, how we are going to fund our defence, how we're going to get employment back up. Unemployment has risen every single month since Labour came into office because they're taxing businesses out of existence. We need to make sure that we are able to grow our economy so that young people can get jobs. They're the ones who are most impacted. That's one of the reasons why I'm talking about the Sovereign Defence Fund, because it will stimulate a lot of investment in the defence industry. Let them hire young people. All of our policies are linked. Our energy policy is linked to our defence policy. That's linked to our welfare policy. That's linked to our growth policy, because you need a systematic response, a system response to the problems the country is facing. That is what Conservatives are doing, while Labour is talking about £4.5 billion for new cycle lanes and walking pathways, something that is just showing that they have not grasped the scale of the threat that we are facing. Ryan Saby, The Sun.
Thank you. The government has committed to spending core defence spending, getting that to 3.5% by 2035. Do you have any ambition to bring this forward? And is there also any ambition to reach the levels of Poland at 4% and Estonia 5%?
So we need to make sure that we can adequately fund our defence. And those are all ambitions. But if we're not even talking about getting to 3% by the end of this Parliament, then any talk about 3.5% is just not serious. Let's do what we can do now. And if we're going to get to 3% by the end of this Parliament, that means we need to start with a defence investment plan that is ready for today. We are showing how we can get there. We haven't got the full 3%, but we're explaining a lot more than the Labour Party, who have all the details, are able to do. So until we can explain how we get to 3% by 2030, then there is no one, certainly not in government, is being serious when they're talking about 3.5%. What they're doing is kicking the problem into the long grass for the next government to deliver. And as usual, it will be the Conservatives who have to clean up the mess that Labour has made. Daisy Eastlake from The Times.
Thank you. You've offered many times and also today to help Labour to reduce the benefits bill to fund defence, but presumably lending your votes would come with some conditions. Could you outline what your Conservative Party helping Labour might practically look like, and would you set any red lines on welfare reform with the government in exchange for some of those votes?
Well, we need to start having those conversations first. When I offered to work with Labour on their welfare reforms, I did set some conditions in. So we're not giving them a blank check on anything. We need to make sure that they are looking at the principles which I outlined in this speech, talking about readiness, talking about capability, not just the funding. So those three tests are where we should start in terms of framing what Labour need to do. Otherwise, they will come up with a fig leaf that looks like they're spending a lot of money when actually they are not. Genevieve Hall-Allen from The Telegraph.
Hi, thanks, Kemi. You spoke about the Prime Minister's legacy ahead of, challenging weeks ahead for him. And this morning he's announced a ban on social media for young people. And obviously that's something that the Conservatives have campaigned for and supported. But his critics have said that this is basically a desperate bid for a legacy. And do you agree with that? What do you make with that? And just lastly, if I may, the assisted dying bill is being brought back to Parliament by a second private member's bill this week. What do you make of that? Do you think that was the right thing to do and for Parliament to spend time debating? Thank you.
Thank you. So on Keir Starmer's legacy, if an imperfect social media ban is his legacy, I think that says a lot about the Prime Minister. And he would not even be having this ban in place if it wasn't for the Conservatives. Why was there a consultation on it? Because we forced an amendment in the Lords. I think this was Lord Nash's amendment. Why has he come out with this? Because we put another amendment in a bill, which was one in the Lords, where we have more numbers than we do in the Commons. I asked him repeatedly, back in January, one of the first things I said was that it was Conservative policy to ban social media for under 16s. We are the ones who have driven this, like with many of his U-turns, like with the Chagos bill, for example. It is because of the work the Conservatives have been doing that we're even dragging Labour to a better place. No other party is getting Labour to do the right thing. The social media ban, as he's announced it, is not perfect. I have a lot of questions, but at least he's doing something on that. So I welcome that, and I think that we can work with them to get it into a better place. You asked a second question on assisted dying. I think the fact that in the middle of the government collapsing and the Defence Secretary saying that the country is not safe, the fact that Labour MP's priority is to bring forward an assisted suicide bill, which many people said was so bad it did not pass muster. I think this shows what kind of people sit on the Labour backbenches. I've said it is not just the leadership, it is everyone in the Labour Party. They are silly, full of fatuous gimmicks, like the Summer of Sex, which, what's that Labour MP's name? Samantha Niblett was proposing. They don't know how to solve energy. They don't know how to solve defence. They don't know how to create jobs. They don't know anything about business. They don't know how to run the economy or where money comes from. That is why they're bringing bills like this. They're just going to waste the next 3 years, because we will likely have them for the next 3 years, and it's going to be the Conservatives who have to clean up the huge mess which they are making. John Walker from The Express.
Thank you, Mrs. Badenoch. You mentioned Article 5 in your speech. Are you confident that if we or Europe are attacked, that America would fulfil its obligations? Do we need to think about how we can defend ourselves, if need be, without the support of the United States?
Well, I think that we are not yet in a position where we'd be worried about America not assisting. But the broader point you're making is correct, that if we are not looking after our own sovereign capability and our own strength, we will not be respected by other countries. We do need to do a lot of work to make sure that NATO sticks together. I said in my speech that Donald Trump is playing by different rules than the ones that we are used to. But with the many things that I might disagree with Donald Trump on, he is right that we do need to spend more money on defense. It's not just America. Russia, Iran, China, these are countries that respect strength, not warm words and going to summits. They are not worried about all of these summits that Keir Starmer is attending. What they will be concerned about is showing that we are rearming and tooling up, and that's what the Defence Investment Plan should be doing. We don't have a plan, and that leaves me very worried, because we've been waiting 2 years and we cannot protect our country according to Labour's own defence secretaries. That's what should worry us more than Donald Trump. Lucy Fisher from the FT, please. Oh, Lucy's not here? All right. Christian Calgi from the Mail.
Morning, Kemi. Crucial to this new offer, renewed offer to work with Labour to cut welfare to fund defence, will surely be hoping for some help from John Healey and Al Carnes. I was wondering, have you spoken to them? Have you approached them? Have you got back channels available to you on that front? And on a separate note, there was a bit of a row last week regarding potentially working with Reform. You dismissed it using words I won't say it this time in the morning. But that was specifically talking about a sort of pre-election pact. Can you talk about post-election and whether you would be willing to work with Reform to shut out a hard left government?
Okay. So on the first question about Al Carnes and John Healey, no, I haven't spoken to them. I do think some Conservative MPs have spoken to at least one of them privately, but those are private discussions. I'm not privy to that. I don't know what plans either of them is making. I wouldn't be surprised if Al Carnes is launching a leadership bid very soon. I don't want to be cynical, but he's not afraid of getting in front of a camera, is he? On the second question, I think when I was asked the question about post or pre-election pact, the answer was no, 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 no. I don't know why some people don't understand no or don't want to take no for an answer, but that is my answer to reform. No, no. And the final two questions from David Lynch and then from Ben Quinn, The Guardian. David Lynch first, please.
Yeah, hello there. Thanks, Mrs Badenoch. David Lynch from the Press Association. Just wanted to return to the question of national service. Are you ruling out that being in your next manifesto?
So, well, I'm not someone who is in favour of conscription. We're not there yet. I don't think we should be distracting from the main problem at hand. If we don't have a defence investment plan, if we don't have the money, then how are we talking about asking young people to join the army on a mandatory basis? So I think that many of these questions are a distraction. I know it's very interesting to write about national service and so on. There's something far more fundamental that is happening, something we have never seen before, which is a defence secretary resigning, saying that the Prime Minister is not able to protect the country. They don't want to have an election. There's another guy in the north of England who says that he's the one who can solve these problems. I'm not confident that he can, and that is why it is very critical that the Conservatives put forward a plan that should help us get to that 3%. We have come up with ideas. We want to work with Labour to do so, and that's really all that we're focused on right now. Final question, Ben Quinn from The Guardian.
Thank you. So Nigel Farage is going to be asked about something which he seems to have been reluctant to talk about for some time, and that's a £5 million donation, which is under investigation. Would you nonetheless want some of the money from the donors who are flocking to reform and abandoning the Conservatives? And secondly, we also hear that this is a week in which we're going to be reaching out to the city, making a renewed push to regain their trust. Is it time for a Claus-style moment where you publicly throw Liz Truss out of the Conservative Party and say goodbye to that period?
Right. So, on the point about Nigel Farage, I think that Reform they're clearly having some kind of breakdown. Whether it's because of Rupert Lowe or whatever, but it's very interesting that ever since the fishy 5 million story broke, he has not had a press conference because he doesn't want to face the sort of questioning which I face pretty much every single day. In fact, I remember a time when he was boasting that he had more questions thrown to him than I did. That was not true, but I think it's definitely not true now and probably won't be until he explains where his £5 million came from. But in terms of donors, and do we want some of those donors, we have a broad base of donors, small and large. If you take out the money that Christopher Harborne has given Reform, that's that one man, we are outraising them. In fact, I think that we are outraising all of the parties combined in most quarters, and I am very proud of that. We have a lot of people supporting us, not just one individual. We are not a one-man band supported by one donor. We are a strong, united team of Conservatives across the country. We have a lot of people who want to make sure that the Conservative Party is there for people to vote for, because we are the only credible alternative to Labour. And on your second question, there are mistakes which have been made in the past by my predecessors who were leaders of the party. I have acknowledged those mistakes, but right now what the country needs is a plan for the future. What are we going to fix? What are we going to do to fix the mess we're making, that Labour is making? What are we going to do to fix that mess? Only the Conservatives can fix the mess that Labour is making. Only us, no one else. And that is where my priority is right now. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.